And so Ron March tonight is going to be talking about the new American slavery. And so we're going to see what that is all about. He has been giving us our history. So these have been history lessons that he has been giving us. And also, if we have a problem tonight with hearing Ron March, you can also go, for those that are on the computer, you can go to Ron March Show, and you will be able to hear him clear if we have a problem over here on Blog Talk, Truth to Power. So I'm going to put some music on. He's going to switch up his phone, and then we're going to see if we can get started.
Yes, I, Rastafari, I Jah make the blind man see, jump up and feel irie. He make the lame man walk, make all the dumb start talk. That they may all be one, as thou have a heart in eye, and I in the eye. That they may also be one in I and I, that the world may know and believe that thou hast sent I. And the glory which thou gavest unto I and I have given them, that they may be one, even as we are one. I and them, and thou and I, that they may be made perfect in oneness, and that the world may know that thou hast sent I, and hast loved them, even as thou hast loved the I. Ready or not, you're gonna get a shot of this good red hot black African love. Step on the scene, and them heart pure and clean, ice cold and green, black African love. Ready or not, you're gonna get a shot of this good red hot black African love. Don't be so mean, your love is pure and clean. Oh Lord, it make the sick get well, redeem the wicked from hell. To make a deaf man ear, I'll make the careless start kill. Oh Lord, come now, all people, let's gather near and listen well clear the words that I and I, Rastaman, I've come to sing to you. You know the time that truth must prevail. World is weeping and a wailing, pure gnashing of teeth, them gonna end. And that will come on you, and you, and you too. So, if you're ready or not, you're gonna get a shot of this good red hot black African love. Dead upon the sea, don't be so mean, ice cold and green and black African love. Come to your feet, get away from the beat. Let's head to the east, black African love. Don't be so mean, keep your hands and heart pure and clean. It make the blind man see, jump up and feel irie. Come make the lame man walk.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
All right. We are back. Ron March, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Yes, it is.
All right. Okay. There's some new information coming out, Bev, when I sent you the topic for tonight. It's not new to me and my students of Detroit, but I'm sure it's going to be new to your audience because they use a demographic type information bureau coming from the government to make sure that none of the information overflows into other areas, that type of thing. So I received this article one of my students found called The New American Slavery. And as I read the article, I started thinking that we as blacks in America, we have always been in slavery. The chains that they lead us to believe, the chains and the whips and the cotton fields and dragging old bags and singing Old Black Joe. All of that was a fictitious package coming from the government in a brainwash program. We as blacks have never been in slavery. They use that word too loose, slavery. We have been in bad contracts. And we got to keep saying that. We're in bad contracts. The process of sharecropping was a good program when it started. It was a way for the people of the country to feed their families. Because after the Civil War, they changed the government. I just saw that today in an article. The government, they wiped out the republic in 1861 when they was going into the Civil War. It was wiped out. That's why there was such a conflict, and that's why they killed Lincoln. They try to make all kinds of reasons why they killed Lincoln and that type of thing. They got rid of his vice president prior to getting rid of Lincoln. I sent that information out. He was a black man that was the vice president for Lincoln. They got rid of him prior to Lincoln going into these struggles of the Civil War. And if you can look and think of Lincoln being, number one, a black man, number two, one that had no problem with, listen to my words carefully, sharecropping, and he wanted to keep the Union intact. Well, the powers to be were overpowering him in such a fashion, the way they're doing Obama today. He really didn't have a say-so in keeping the Union intact. So what happened, the southern states, realizing that there was a humongous conflict between the government head, which would be Lincoln, and the international bankers and the crooks that they could muster and the politicians that they could purchase, they said, we're going to pull out of the Union and we're going to be governed by the republic. We do not want to be a part of democracy. Now, if you could get that, just start out with that thought in your head, it will change all his story that he gave you when he leaned it toward the fact that we were slaves, we were the cause of the Civil War, and all those negative notes, or better yet, those highlights of notes that put him in a posture of taking care of us and doing us a favor. So as we come out of that 1800s, coming into 1900s, things were terrible for black people because those powers to be. Now remember, there was no Democratic Party. The Democratic Party was known as the Ku Klux Klan. You have governors on records in the United States that were Ku Klux Klan members. You have senators, congressmen, all the way up to 1945. You had Europeans in government that were proud to be in the Ku Klux Klan. And the purpose of the Ku Klux Klan was to destroy the power base of the Republicans. To destroy the power base of the Republicans. And in so doing, the voting became a huge process. And from that, the government, Lincoln and I guess the government, I'll just say, they had troops in the South to protect the indigenous ones because the European was determined to take the land. And his position on taking the land was you have to kill them because they have a right to the land, and if we have to go to court to fight our rights, for our rights, we don't have any rights. Now, that's kind of hard for us to see, you guys to see, not me, because we were taught it in a different fashion, from a different view. They did not want us to go to court because we would win in court. They used one case to tell us that you never want to go to court, and that was Dred Scott case. But Dred Scott case, he went to the United States of America's court, the ones that I told you are there today, are fictitious. And they made it clear from their government, listen to me carefully, from their government founded in Washington, the country of the District of Columbia, they didn't want black people in their government, in their domain, in their jurisdiction. No blacks were allowed in their jurisdiction. And that's why Dred Scott lost his case, because he was there as a slave, which did belong to the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C. They labeled him a slave. Now, understand the process of sharecropping was in place. And everybody was trying to get a part of sharecropping because the rich people were trying to help the poor people, and they needed labor. Sharecropping was the best answer because they didn't have to pay the sharecroppers to work, because they would get the land and work from the land. The land at that time was for rich landowners who could have workers working on the land to produce their crops. So we need, I don't know how it's going to be done, but we need to get into this history, his story, and look at it from our story, and you can see the light. Now, are you there?
I'm here. We hear you.
Okay. So the criteria and the definition and the living of the slave, which was created by United States of America, was already in place. And all they had to do was get it into the books, the school books, so they could teach our children the concept and change it into what we know today that made us Negroes. See, everything was done for a reason. And once they got hold of the school system, and Horace Greeley made it clear that everyone would get a free education, that's when they decided to flood the school books with a lot of trash. And they did a damn good job of brainwashing us. And they kept the schools segregated because the white pupils had to learn how to dictate and live in the United States of America and keep us as black indigenous ones on the bottom. And that's why schools stayed segregated for so long. And it's really segregated today because they're popping up with these private schools. Now, that part of slavery, I can talk about that all night, because what I've been studying and research and what I'm seeing, and when I knew that we talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma, we talk about Rosewood, I turned you on to Elaine, Arkansas, and there may be one or two. Oh, yeah, I turned you on to Wilmington, North Carolina. We looked at it, and I should say I looked at it as though it was black-controlled cities, communities. I was wrong. And I should have known better, but my mindset was not there, because they had flooded us with Tulsa, Oklahoma. They very seldom mentioned the word Greenwood. The Gap Band come from Greenwood. G stands for Greenwood, A stands for Somebody's Avenue, and P, all of those, GAP stands for the area that was the richest area in the United States. And it was called the Gap. That's where the Gap Band comes from. Well, what I discovered was we had hundreds of Greenwoods. Hundreds. I'm talking about 3, 4, 5, 600 Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, all over the United States. And these were communities, like here in Detroit. We never looked at it from this perspective of Beverly. But Hastings Street, John R. were our economic base where we didn't need anything from the outside. Those are the types of communities that I'm talking about that were self-sufficient. But when the Europeans saw what was going on, they had to destroy it because they were starving to death. They cannot create what we can create. I made that clear last week. We are the resources of all economics, indigenous ones, because we come out of the land. So what they did with Detroit, they destroyed it. They brought in expressways. That 375 that came off of 75. 75 was a federal highway. 375 was set up by the so-called city council, which went straight through. And don't forget, as I said, if it's two numbers, it belongs to the government. And if those two numbers is even, it goes east and west. And if those two numbers are odd, like 75, they go north and south. That's all over the United States. Now, when you get to 3 and 4 numbers, you're talking about bypasses. And this is where the Criminal Act started with bypasses, because all of these cities that were white-owned and controlled, hear me clear, they had to figure out a way to get rid of the black economics so they could steal our business. That's shocking when you think about it. So they ran that 375 right straight through the black community, a black business district, and didn't give up a dime for relocation. This happened all over the United States. Hundreds of black communities were destroyed by just that fact. Now there's a new one that I looked at that was more powerful, but it was as powerful as Greenwood, and it was called Hayti, Hayti, Hayti. And you look all over, you never find Hayti because it was not a city, it was a community in Durham, North Carolina. And they said that that city was so powerful that the Europeans were just devastated. They couldn't figure out how to destroy it. They went in there with hillbillies, bats, balls, rifles, all the stuff. They went in twice during the late 1900s and again in 1800s and again in the early 1900s. They went in to destroy it. The last time they zeroed in on the schools because they didn't want them to teach the children. This is madness. This is what they've been keeping away from us. Now, I'm still coming forward. All of this area was put on the indigenous ones because we own the land. The land belongs to us. The government that has no legal grounds to stand on was created in 1871, and then they taught us that that was the real government. And that's a damn lie. It is not. And all of our trials and tribulations and bankruptcies and homelessness and joblessness and all of the problems that we have in the United States come from Washington, D.C., those crooks, those damn international bankers, and those agents, the Uncle Remus black agents that dictate and do the dirt for those Europeans. Now, we're coming in to early 1900. They still needed more money. They still had to find a way to create more funds. The rioting and burning out black communities was not enough because we would rebuild them right quick. We would rebuild them. They couldn't get rid of us. Never can they get rid of us. We have always had an underground economic system. And for you older folks that are listening, the number rackets was one of the most powerful positions that we had, along with bootlegging and speakeasies. Those speakeasies was dynamite, but they did the same thing. Look at Harlem Nights, the Cotton Club. Look at those movies and see how those Europeans, through the police department, used the force of the police department to destroy the black community's economics and give it to the white community. We need to know this. We need to understand this. Now, The reason they're talking about a new American slavery is because out of all of the debacles to keep us down, they have injured their own people. This is where the problem is today. Europeans are suffering more today than any black community has suffered. Why?
Yeah.
They're not versatile. They're not creative. If it don't go the way the book says, they will die. That was proven in 1933, 1934, 1935. Europeans were dropping dead. No reason. Dropping dead because they were so frustrated that the economy had failed, Wall Street had collapsed, and their future was out of the question. They just dropped dead. They bring wagons around on downtown to pick up dead bodies and take them somewhere and dump them. It was so bad that the government had to create what they called the amusement department of amusement. And I learned that when I saw somebody told me, look at old Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple and all them Blackies, Bojangles and all that stuff. And it was called, I think, somebody's parade. I can't recall. And I do have the DVD at home. But what it was, they were talking about the government funding movie directors and movie producers to create those big glamour movies. Anytime you see a movie made in the 30s, it had glamour. All the white people had suits and ties, and the ladies were highly rich. And they always showed black people dancing or shining shoes. The Jews did that. It was called, the book that they put out was called How I Conquered Hollywood, I think it was. Empire of Our Own. They controlled all those names, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, whatever else is out there. You know what's out there. All of those are Jewish people. You can't blame them, but the government helped fund that in order to make the Nickelodeon. I bet y'all never heard of a Nickelodeon. Beverly, ever heard of Nickelodeon?
The cartoon station?
No. Nickelodeon was the theaters that they put around all the cities so that everybody could go to the movies and you only paid a nickel. It was called a Nickelodeon.
Oh, okay.
And they showed these big, because they had to figure out how to put a starch in the backbone of the Europeans because they was dying like flies. Yes. So now we're getting back into that same situation. Now, black people have always found a way to survive. When the Europeans was dropping dead in the 30s and the 40s, black people were having rent parties. They had bootleg liquor. They was doing the numbers. They had another thing called a policy wheel. I bet you never heard of that one. The policy wheel.
I heard of it.
You heard of the policy wheel? Okay. You put in a penny and you can win $6, $7. Something crazy. My grandma used to play them on that policy wheel every day. And she only spent, if she spent 10 cents and hit, she'd be good for 2 months. She'd get $35, $40 or something like that. I don't know what it was. But everybody played. They call it the policy wheel. Then they turned it into the numbers. And now, since the Europeans stole it, they called it lottery. They made it legal. Lottery. Unbelievable. All of these things happen right in our face. But the problem, our major problem is we as adults and seniors don't put this information on our children because the school system has brainwashed our children to stay away from us and our teachings because they want them to lean into their world and they can create the slave through the mind control. I remember my go ahead.
And speaking of the school system, my granddaughter, she's in high school. And so she did a paper on John Hanson. And so she did her research. She read her paper. Do you know her teacher, which is a white teacher, she got really upset, told her that was not true, that she didn't like her paper?
Yep. Yes. I can see that. Yep. My grandson did the same thing, but he did it on, I think it was racism. And the way he worded it, the teacher didn't like it. So the teacher, rather than giving him a bad grade, because he know my son is going to come up here and raise hell, they didn't give him a grade on it. He just didn't give him a grade. Yeah, he was up here with me. That's a beautiful young man. He's going to be trouble for somebody. You know, he's about 19 now, but when he was in high school, he was doing some things that the teachers could not handle, really. But my son, his daddy, the guy, baby I'm talking about, his father, my son, he was going to I don't know the school. He was in grade school, and they were teaching him about Sojourner Truth and the Underground Railroad. He came home and told me that there was a railroad that came out of the South that came up north. And I said, "Who told you that?" She said, "The teacher." I said, "What did she call it?" She said, "The Underground Railroad." And she told me it was a train. He said, "Yeah." So I started laying some stuff on it. He did his paperwork, turned it in, and the teacher told him, "Have your daddy come up here, because we want to know where did he get this information." As if they didn't know it. It was a black teacher too. Unbelievable, you know. But see, they're not allowed to do that. The principal's watching. That whole school system is a mockery of education, because you got several different groups. I know they got the principal group. They got the clerical group. Then they got the teachers group. Then they break the teachers down, because those that have this degree or in this, it's a mess. I got a friend that's in there, old Frankie. Frankie tells me, he said, "Ron, you cannot imagine." And everybody snitches on everybody else. So if anybody starts teaching something that's worthwhile, because when I help my children with math, I ain't smart. I'm a high school dropout. But I know 1 and 1 is 2. And when I told them 1 and 1 was 2, they took it in. The teacher gave them a F, because they wanted to see how they got to 2. And I'm saying, well, 1 and 1 is 2. I never could figure out what the teachers wanted, but they wanted to see the homework paper, how they get to those figures. And if it wasn't the way it should have been, like 1 and 1 is 2, you don't get a decent grade. It's a mess. But all of that by design. It's all by design. And we are asleep because we're not into it. We're so tied up with working, keeping the lights and gas on, keeping a roof over our heads, trying to get a retirement plan where we can retire, something like that. All of that is such a mad cycle that we don't have time to even talk or eat as a family anymore. And that is by design. That ain't something that people are doing, and you say that the families are just cutthroats. They go in there, they can't find the daddy. They got mama, daughter, and granny all living in one house, 3 generations, and a house full of kids. All of that's by design. And every time we go in, they put it on the front page that they are stealing welfare money, for example. I say they should steal all they can get. It's reparations. They owe us that. But they put it on the paper, call them welfare mamas and all that kind of stuff, because they can't figure out how to stop them from getting, I don't want to call it extra money, but more money than someone else. You know, white guy told me one time, Rod, I was so mad, a lady bought about $100 worth of groceries, and her food stamp was only $75, and she asked her boyfriend for $25. He told her no, and they got to arguing right in the store. So finally, he threw a $100 bill on the counter and stormed out of there. He was mad, told her to get a cab home or something crazy. And now the whitey is telling me that he's so mad because, number one, she got so many groceries for 75 food stamps, and the boyfriend got enough money to throw $100 on the counter. Then told he went out there and got in a brand new car and drove away. Now this whitey is mad and telling me, Ron, you know that ain't right. I said, no, I don't. He should get all he can get, and she should get all she can get. Well, I never would go on welfare. Well, then you will starve. Nobody cares about you not going on welfare. And a lot of Europeans won't even sign up for unemployment. They think it's a disgrace not to have a job. I work with them, so I don't know if you have experienced it. It might be my age or whatever, but I've experienced it. They think it is a disgrace. Some of them think it's a disgrace to be on welfare or to be on getting unemployment, when the statistics show that more of them are getting welfare and unemployment than the whole black community gets.
Right.
But they never realize that.
And don't forget about the corporate welfare.
Oh, that's another show in itself. And nobody mentions that, you know. And we can always find reasons to accuse ourselves of downfall when it's all, I love to tell them, that's by design. You can't make a person stop. If the Arab store is selling milk, a quart of milk for 90 cents, and you got a store right next door and the lowest you can get is $1.10, you can't expect that mother who got to have some milk for the babies to come to your store and give you $1.10 when she can get a 20-cent change right next door. You see what I'm saying?
It shouldn't.
And then they say, well, if we gonna get free or we gonna unite, we gotta sacrifice. No, we don't. I'm not gonna sacrifice. If I only got, I told a guy one day, if I got $10 and I gotta get gas for my wife to go to work, I need cigarettes, and the black store selling gas for $5 a gallon, and the Arab selling it for $4 a gallon, I can get 2 gallons and a pack of cigarettes if I go to the Arab store. But if I go to the black store, all I'm going to get is 2 gallons of gas. And you tell me I got to go to the black store? No way, Jose. It don't work like that. My economic condition pushes me into the Arab store. Now, I'm not proud of it, but I got to live like everybody else. So you got to look at it from that perspective. Because, number one, the Arab is not supposed to be in your community. That's why I tell you, it's all by design. You can't fight prices. You only got X number of dollars to spend. You know, you can scream and act like you're going to be black power and all of that, but if you stop and think for a minute, you got to do what's got to be best for your family. So all of this that we're struggling from today, and it's all over the United States, and that is we are suffering from economic despair, may it be joblessness, homelessness, utilitylessness. You got people that the houses are blowing up. That baby right here in Detroit got burned up, Beverly. She was wrapped in one of them cheap Kmart blankets that cooks you, I don't know, some type of fabric, and they put the baby, the temperature was way down, 10, 11 below, 10 above, whatever. And they put that baby next to a space heater. Are you familiar with that case, Beverly?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
The baby was cooked just like a turkey. And the thing didn't catch the fire. It just got hot because it was that type of blanket. And they charged the mama and the daddy. It wasn't first-degree murder, but it was something like second-degree murder. Something ungodly. Now they'll go back in their history and see where they had turned the gas on illegally 3 times and blah this and blah that. Now the community said, well, they should get that kind of time because they should have known better. That's ridiculous. How are they going to know better?
What happened to Kmart's or Walmart's who sold them the blanket?
There you go. The blankets never did catch a fire. It just cooked the baby like you wrap a turkey in a cellophane, whatever it is they wrap a turkey in. It just bakes the baby. Because first they said there was burns on their face, but then when they opened it up, they found out the whole body was burned. And then they said, well, the baby, she should have heard it because the baby would start crying. How do they know? I ain't never heard of no baby getting cooked in an oven anyway. And if the baby was asleep, by the time they wake up, they was dead anyway.
Right.
That happened right here in Detroit about 2 months ago. But anyway, It's happening all over. It ain't only in Detroit, it's all over. So now we're talking about creating this new American slavery, they call it. New American slavery. Because from the way these Europeans and these international banksters are pressuring United States of America to pay off the debt. Now the debt has always been, the way they set it up, you can never pay off the debt. It's almost like, how can I say it? Like if I own a casino, I can never tell you how much money I'm going to make in the casino because it's open every day and people are coming every day. All I can do is regulate the winnings and the losing by regulating the machines to hit every 10,000 times rather than every 1,000 times. So the debt is set up like that way back in 1790 between the Queen of England and the King George III and George Washington and company, the six European nations. They set this whole process up. They were going for United States of America, the democracy, when they put George Washington in office. And it behooves me that the Moors did not see that. But they did see it because the Constitution will prevent them from doing everything they've done. That's why they changed it in 1861 and will tell you today that the Constitution don't mean nothing. And you got nerve enough to believe it. In other words, you're saying I'm a slave and I just can't do nothing about it. I can't escape. I can't do nothing about it. And I'm telling you, all you need to do is learn the Constitution. Study the Constitution, and every time they get out wrong, put some paper on them. They will adhere to the law of the land. Now, you got to get out of it and set up your own phony courts. So don't think you're going to go in the 36th District, 3rd Circuit, the appellate court, or even the federal court, believe you're going to get justice. They're not set up for you. When you go in there, you're just like a dress cop. You're not in your proper person. We need to shed the nationality and the nation. We need to learn as much as we can about our nationality and our nation. And we need to teach that to our children. I'm telling you, 90% of all you listeners, no, more than that, 80%, 100% of all you listeners got friends, relatives that you know that won't bit more listen to anything you say until it comes down on them, and then they're going to come back and try to get information. I had an aunt, my favorite uncle passed. He had bills up the gazoozes. When he passed, my aunt said that she was going to pay his bills because she got the government to give her his, not the government per se, but the retirement plan. She was on his retirement plan, something like that. So she's telling me she's going to pay the bill. I said, well, that's a good trick if you can do it. But you're not allowed to pay his bills because he was only a straw man. Y'all listen to this carefully. He was only a straw man to the system, which everyone listening is a straw person to the system, all capital letters. Even when you die, you're in all capital letters. Go to the cemetery, and if you see any tombstone with upper and lower caps, they don't exist. All tombstones is in all capital letters because the straw man dies. The person don't die because they don't give a damn about the person. They're concerned about the straw man. So I told her, here's what you do. You go to the funeral home, and they don't need right to do this, but you got to really be forceful when you tell them, I need a copy of the death certificate for me. Oh, we're going to send one to the government. We're going to send one to the... No. Let's read my list. Give it to me. Now, once you get the death certificate, you need to rush and get at least 100 copies made. By the way, every time his bill comes to the house or your past friend, whatever, put that death certificate in there with the bill and send it back. Oh, they come to the office. Oh, my mama died and she owed this and she owed that. Oh, listen, you ain't got to pay none of that. Get the death. Oh, I went to the funeral home. They wouldn't give me a death certificate. Lord help that. Roll out a casket and tell him if he don't, you're going to put him in there. That's what you do. You got to be aggressive because this is set up. They tell those funeral people, don't give out so many. They think they're doing the right thing. They get taught a system that's going to support the system, not you. So what you need to do is get a copy, run off as many as you can, and every time a bill shows up, put that in there. He's dead. Strong man is dead. So get out of here. Go to the funeral home. The cemetery. Get him over there. Ain't nobody paying nothing here no more. Well, they gave your name as a reference. I don't care. Do I have a contract with you? No. Well, then what the hell are you talking about? Well, he put your name in. That's good. That's good. He can put your name in. Okay? But if I didn't sign the contract, I don't care if he put my name in. You got that? And there's nothing they can do. Oh, help me, Beth. I'm telling you. All right, we're working into, it started in approximately, well, it's been brewing a long time, this new so-called American slavery. Most people are like a frog in a boiling pot. They don't realize, most people, they're black, white, yellow, green, it don't matter. They don't realize they're in trouble till the water gets so hot they can't get out. They always think through television and newspapers and lying politicians, oh, it's going to get better next week. It's going to get better next year. We're going to put a new politician in. No one has ever been free through politics. I keep telling these black folks this in Detroit. You cannot vote yourself out of slavery. They're beginning to realize that, especially in the last cycle of voting in Detroit. When they took the election, they literally stole the election and no one said a word.
But that's
they screamed for the...
That's
say that again?
I said that's
I didn't hear you there.
I said that's not the first time that they stole the election.
Oh no. But most of the time, they'll take one or two. Like when I ran for mayor against Henderson, Helmut Henderson, and Kwame Kilpatrick. I ran as a write-in, same way this European got in.
Right. I remember. I'm just laughing.
Okay, yeah. They would not give me a count. They just told me it's the biggest count they've ever seen before for write-in. I have no idea. They couldn't put my numbers up because they had already figured it through the computer, how many votes is going to go this way, how many votes are going to go that way, because we're in the general election, and if someone like myself would step in and just get 2% of the votes, I ain't talking about winning the damn thing, 2%, it would throw their numbers off. So they couldn't give me a number. But when that European ran as a write-in, they said that he took over 50% of the votes. And no one said a word.
Nope.
And the damnest thing about it, there was no third candidate. Did you notice that? When I ran as a write-in, they had the two winning candidates, the number 1 and number 2 ran.
Right.
Now, because when this one came, this guy was a write-in. He had no right to be there. And you know what bad comes from about? They put his name on the ballot the last time, didn't they? I didn't vote, so I don't really know. But I think they did. Did they? I don't know. I want to say they put his name on the ballot. Because if you're a write-in, you can't put your name on the ballot. It has to be written in. That's what they call a write-in vote.
No, they put his name on the ballot because, remember, they had another person that had the same name as his, but it was with one G or something, or they was telling people to write. Yes,
but I thought that was in the primary, and the primary he did run as a write-in, and they didn't want him to spell the name wrong. That's why they talked about this other guy. But when they got to the general, there was only 2 people that ran for the general. And I'm thinking that Doug's name was on the machine in the general election. But it doesn't matter. It was already set up. Once Kilpatrick was put in jail, it was set up that they didn't have any more agents because Dave Beam was the worst piece of crap that ever stepped in Detroit. Everybody said it. You can't even call him a man, a father. He is the worst piece of crap that ever came, but he was a boule. And he had to adhere to the command of the Europeans because he belonged to the organization of the boules. So they told him, just like Dennis Archer. They told him, all we want you to do is come in every day, bring a newspaper, go over there, sit down, read the newspaper, drink a coffee, go to lunch, and take off early, about 2 o'clock, and get the hell out of here. And that's what he did. Same way he did when he ran the steel package. No, that was Archer, excuse me. That was Archer. That was Dave Beam. Dave Beam with the steel when he had a steel mill. Yep. Nobody questioned that. The whole country went bankrupt in the mid-'80s, and the country went bankrupt in the steel industry, if you recall. All the steel mills went out of business. Akron, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, all those steel mills shut down. All of a sudden, Dave Beam pops up, and he's going to not only sell steel, he's going to sell resellable steel. How can that be? And it was a multi-million-dollar operation on paper because he went and met the mayor, and he got on the Fortune 500 and all that crap. Oh, and nobody said a word. This is what drives me bonkers. I used to feel like I was a troublemaker by bringing it up, but now, no. We got agents in our community all over the United States. Yeah. And every one of them has sworn to uphold the European. Now, remember that. They come as preachers, and jackleg preachers. They come as the AKA. They come as the boule. They come as them civil rights all-stars. They come as them so-called Negro pundits that think they know every damn thing. But Ron, you also have them in the activists and the so-called conscious community. You got them everywhere. Yes, they're everywhere. Yes. And their job is to either tell the European what they're doing or prevent you from success. That's what you say. Yes. Now, out of all this I've said, we're getting close to the top of the hour, so I'm going to set it up. Out of all this I've said, the European has suffered as much or more than the black community. I would say more, because we always can find a way to survive. We always have, and we will, because we always bounce back. But the Europeans cannot do that. And before I go any further, listen to this. When the black communities were flourishing from 1865 to 1945, segregation was the law of the land. How did they do that? We did better inside. I've said it 100 times. Integration has destroyed the black community. Martin Luther King and a bunch of people, by pushing integration, we live worse today than we have ever lived in the United States. Except when we were in segregation. We need to go back to segregation. I'll march for that. And run all of these Europeans and foreigners out of our community so we can live. But now, if you even say that, you'll find out who the agents are. They will come out from under the rug and label you or me the biggest crook the biggest liar, the biggest troublemaker that ever come to the United States or come to Detroit. Because that's their job. They're what they call griffins. I told y'all to look up griffin. A griffin is a animal that got wings, look like a tiger, and a dog got wings, and his job is to guard the gate. Help me, somebody. Guard the gate. Ask one of them so-called college grads that come out of that trash. All that boule and that stuff.
And they also sound like the Buffalo Soldiers.
The Buffalo Soldiers, most of those individuals have no idea why they are Buffalo Soldiers. Because, they are not. They're just in a fraternal order, a secret order, that gets praise from the government. Just like a motorcycle club. They get praise from the government because they are agents for the government. And you got a European motorcycle club in the heart of black community. Why is that? Because they are the backup for the police department. I know. Y'all ain't going to believe that. Why are they in here? Oh, they think they put back out in the European neighborhoods. You got a big one right there on 6 Mile between Evergreen and Southfield. Great big one. When they come and park their motorcycles, they take up a whole block to park their motorcycles. Europeans. Everything goes on in there. Never seen a black close to the block, let alone go in the club. That's a whole different rap.
But there are a lot of people, Ron, don't even know how the police department started. I mean, it all makes sense when you know how they came about.
Okay. Give me some insight. I know what...
They were the one that hunted down the slaves when they ran away.
Yes.
So, I mean, it makes sense. They still, today, they still got the same mentality. It makes sense.
Yes. And that's interesting because their job is to protect and guard the corporations. And the slave owners were the corporations in the day. So when the slave left, the owner was losing money. So he would hire these guys. Plus, if you look at your cowboy movies, every cowboy movie has a sheriff, a sheriff. And they're all in the 1800s. Now, you have to ask yourself, where was the police department? Wasn't no police. It was a sheriff. And then they had United States Marshals who were put in from D.C. because they were setting up the new government of the United States of America. And you are totally correct because the first police department was called the Pinkerton Association. That's what they were called. Everybody was scared of the Pinkerton Association. And then they turned themselves in. These were individuals that just carried guns and went after people. And most of the people were stagecoach robbers, stealing. All of it pertained to the corporation. No one was protecting the people but the sheriff.
Right.
Lord. Bev, you getting heavy over there trying to put this stuff on. I got a headache big enough as it is. You keep putting more in there. But you're totally correct what you said. So anyway, we are dealing with this so-called new American slavery. And I think you can feel where I'm going with this because we have suffered through all of this. And if we don't wake up to who we are and create ourselves a new nationality, we're going to die with that new American slavery. And we're at the top of the hour, Beth. Let's take a 10-minute and...
Welcome back to the Truth to Power show. And my name is BeverlyD. And my co-host is Ron March. Ron March, are you back?
Yes, ma'am, I'm back. And we're going to give it a real run for the money this time because we want to get right into that subject.
Okay, and we have been... we got a call, but we'll wait till you get into it, and then we'll come back. So just hold on, caller.
Well, wait a minute. Let's take the caller because the caller might want to talk about last hour rather than the new hour.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
area code 860.
How you doing, March?
Yes,
How you doing,
I'm good. How are you, friend?
Yes. You know, the good president came by here in CT today at a school talking about so-called raising the minimum wage.
Okay.
Now, from my understanding about this, if you work for any corporation, how much time do you make any money? They're always going to take most of it, and you're only going to get $1. Am I right?
Yes,
right?
totally correct. Yes.
So what makes the difference if people get paid $10 an hour, and they've been suppressing, the corporation been holding this back, that people could be making over $20 at this time of age, but they've been keeping it so long suppressed for over close to 50 years.
Yeah. Well, I would think the benefit would come from the corporations where they can really hire people at less than $10 an hour to make the same product. If they raise it where you can make a living, they can't get rid of you and they cannot cut your wages. It'd be difficult to cut your wages because profit and wages are the same thing. You can only, if you get into business, you can only buy goods at a certain price, your utilities at a certain price, and your sales are at a certain number. But your wages will always get into your profit. So if you can cut down on profit, you can cut down on wages, you'll increase your profit. So you got to look at that so-called annual wage and all that stuff they talk about from that perspective. You follow me? If you still there, Bill?
Yeah, I hear. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna put my hand out for a minute. I'm gonna ask another question later for a show. Okay.
All right. Good enough. Appreciate it. Okay, Bill, let's crank up and we're gonna get into this new American slavery. Now, they kept the European in position with first they used the separate but equal position coming out of that period that we just left. And then when they got up into the 30s, they began to show that it was better to be a poor white, because they did it through the movies, than to be a blackie, because the blackie was dancing and acting a fool, where the European that was poor, at least he had a roof over his head and that type of thing. So they really tricked that European to believe that he was still better than the black folks because of this and because of that. Well, since that period of time, they have increased the attack on black community. Now today, when you mention drugs, it's black. When you mention rape, it's black. When you mention black on black crime, of course, it's black. But when you mention robberies and crime, it's always a black thing. So that gives the psychological effect to the Europeans that they're not living too bad. At least they're not living like those black folks. Well, that dream, which is called the American dream, is turned into a nightmare. And that nightmare is beginning to publicly push Europeans out in the street and laying Europeans off with joblessness and homelessness. And now they're talking about opening up some camps, some so-called, not concentration camps, they want to call them homeless camps, homeless shelters, that they're going to have to feed the people, and they're going to select a certain group and give them jobs to feed the people in these particular camps. Well, now they cannot hide the fact that it's going to be predominantly white in those camps. And then you ask the European, how did you get here? This is what causes they call it a new slavery, because he got there through interest rates on his mortgage. He got there through interest rates on his automobile. He got there through poor wages. I've heard him say here lately that the the production has went up tremendously, but the wages have went down tremendously. So they're really creating a slave that really don't know he's a slave. I guess you could say the best slave in the world is one that don't know they're a slave, because the history has shown that they have treated us as if we were free, and we have never been free. But now it's coming into their camp. And by it coming into their camp, they're going to be in big trouble, because the European is going to fight. He got enough guns to attack the White House. This is something that you got to be very careful that you don't get involved with, because the European, if they ever found out what these politicians have been doing to them, then they are going to be in big trouble. That's why they got Obama in position, so they can blame all the dirt and all the treachery they do on their own people. They blame it on Obama. They really hate Obama. But the bottom line is, he's creating, quote unquote, from his government regime or his democratic process, he's creating a new slavery in the United States. You can't get around it. But he doesn't have a choice. He asked for the job. He likes the job. He knows that the corporations own and control the job. So you can't feel, I don't feel sorry for him, because he gets what he asked for. But what I am worried about is once these Europeans go in the street, it's going to be hell to pay, because in the past they've always blamed it on black people. During the Industrial Revolution back in the 50s and 60s, when they were trying to get back on board, they blamed everything on the black worker. They call him a strike breaker. The riots, or the white riots, and that's who started them, white folks, back in the 1919, the bloodiest year in United States history, when Europeans were literally burning out black communities. They called it they called it the black strike breakers that had jobs, and the European did not have a job, because he knows and has been taught that he's superior. Why should you have it when he's a superior individual? We got to be prepared for that, because it's coming, and I mean soon. I got next week, I'm going to see if I can get enough info on it, but there is a scheduled bank shutdown coming soon, within 30 to I hate to give a number because I don't know it yet, but it's coming very soon. And they're sending out letters of information to community leaders to tell them to calm down, because it's only going to last for up to 3 weeks, when every banking institution in the United States is going to close. Any network that's attached to those banks will be shut down. They're going to go offline. I got that information at home. And
so the people who get their government checks the first of the month, and their disability and Social Security and pension, they won't be able to.
No. And those individuals that get a check and they have it a direct deposit, they're going to lose that money. But they're trying to set it up where we all have to work together. Can't we just all get along and suffer through this little period? Because when we come out on the other end, we will be in better shape and better position. But I know that's a lie, because what they've done to the economy since 1871 has been nothing but complete chaos and bankruptcy. Now, I mentioned to you about the CAFR, I got to get it right. It's called the Comprehensive Audit Report. So the R is last. Economic Report. It's called CAFR. And the CAFR was set up. Beth, have you ever heard of Glass and Steagall Act? Glass, C-L-A-S-S, Steagall, S-T-E-G-A-L-L, Glass and Steagall Act.
I've heard of it, but I can't remember what it was all about.
All right. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt got into the so-called New Deal, he realized that the banks and the international bankers caused bankruptcy of the United States. So he set up through his Democratic Party, he set up what they call the Glass-Steagall Act, which told every bank in the United States that there was rules, regulations, and and they could not do or do, and if they violated it, they would be in federal trouble. The land of the Steagall Act worked because the country got back on its feet from 1933 all the way up to 2000, let's just say 2000, to be safe. But what happened when Clinton and the Bush family was coming in and going out, and Cheney and all those crooks, I ain't got to name them, y'all know who they are. They all got together and said we must repeal the Steagall Act, the Glass-Steagall Act, and they wiped it out. By wiping out the Steagall Act, that's when the banks went into everything, from credit cards to mortgages to auto loans, everything. So from 2006, when they claim it started, and all the way up till today, they have literally wiped out all the economics, all the money in the United States, and it all went to the banking industry. And that's where we are today. That's why when they put Obama in office, he came through with that stimulus package. Nobody even questions today the stimulus package. We were talking about, I think the number went as high as $7 trillion he gave to the banks. And no one said a word. And then they found out that the banks still did not want to go along with the rules, so they accepted the money and didn't tell the government what they did with the money. And the mortgage industry just went bonkers. That's why everybody's suffering today in the mortgage industry. So that goes across racial lines when you have that type of treachery. But we're still talking about a bankrupt country. All that the New Deal did was to buy time. Economic expert, financial expert, I have no idea. But they came up with a new federal banking act. And I know, I used to know the name, but I can't give it to you right now. But when that act went in place, everything went to hell for the people. Now they're raiding everything. Now, here's the clincher. Here's where that new slave comes into play. Bankruptcy is illegal, unlawful. There's no such thing as a municipality bankruptcy. I'm telling y'all that because it's coming to your town. They already got it in Detroit and a couple more cities around the country. But they're trying to fine-tune it so when they bring it into the major cities or other cities, they're going to just sweep in and sweep out. What they're trying to do is to file bankruptcy across America from the municipalities, not the government, because the world is watching the government. China, Japan, some of the South American states that have accounts with the United States, they are ready to attack the United States if the United States files bankruptcy. They can't do it. And I'm telling you, it's illegal for them to do that. They still don't know how Franklin Delano Roosevelt got away with it, and they don't even admit it today that they filed bankruptcy in 1933. So now they're trying to do it again, but they know they can't go into that area because of the way things are today. Internet, cell phones, and all those electronic jobs where all the secrets can get out. So they're setting up what they call these metropolitan bankruptcies. And that's totally illegal because the CAFR Act prevents any, hear me clear, any municipality to file bankruptcy. Now, how do they do that? It's similar to the Glass and Steagall Act, which means no municipality can get involved in any type of financial transaction if they don't have the money in the municipality to back up what they're doing. And they say today that Detroit's CAFR is 3 times as high as it should be because they've been stealing the money from Detroit ever since Archer went in office. They couldn't do it under Coleman because Coleman was aware. It's called the CAFR, Comprehensive Audit Report. The last one is report. Well, okay. I can't put it. I need to write it down and I can get it. But anyway, it's called CAFR. They call it CAFR. It's only 4 letters. CAFR. I got it. Comprehensive Audit Financial Report. Comprehensive Audit Financial Report. If you think I'm lying, look up CAFR. Every city has one. Every city has one. And if it gets out of line, the government will, by law, the United States will come in, not only shut the municipality down, they'll put them crooks in jail.
So how come the crooks not in jail in Detroit?
Because they cannot bring up the CAFR because it was engineered by them. They almost got it going when what's that thing? Woo. I'm looking at it. They almost got into it when the Bush family came in Detroit with Rosenberg, and brought in $600,000 to buy off the city council to put that garbage system into Detroit. Oh, almost called it. You remember?
Oh, the Senegal or something? Senegal. Yes. And the money, like today, they only can account for $10,000. And that would be between Monica Conyers and a couple of those black guys that got caught. They only got about $10,000 between the 3. They don't know where that $600,000 went. Senegal was the name of the company that was coming in, and it was owned by the Carlyle Group. And if you look up the Carlyle Group, all of those are crooks that came out of the Ronald Reagan bunch, Cheney, and all of them came out of that bunch. They set up an organization called the Carlyle Group. You just answered your question, Ryan, where the money went.
Yeah.
They can say they're a bunch of crooks, and it came out.
A bunch of crooks. Yes. Now, here's how they get the people. Here's how they get the people. They talk about the budget. See, they say that the budget is gone haywire in Detroit, so they have to file bankruptcy, which is true. But the budget has creative accounting involved in budgets. So they create these budgets and make them look like they're in the soup, when the real thing is the CAFR say they're not in the soup. So the government cannot come in and say anything because their package is in place. This is one of the damnedest things in the world. You know, you can see a crime in...
My thing, Ron, is you got all of these activists, and some of them are attorneys and other things, marching. Why is none of them addressing them and fighting them on this level?
It's very, very simple, and if you bring it up, you should know better, because every lawyer has a P number. And the P number is what he uses to make a living. If the word comes down, as it has come down, not only, but all politicians are not lawyers, but the word has come down that nobody will bring up the CAFR. So if any of them mention it, they're put on the blacklist.
And but what about the activists? What about the leaders, the activists that is leading the marches? Why can't they do the research and fight them on that level?
Let me answer that with an example. One of the leading advocates in Detroit was a nigger named Municipal. Am I right or wrong?
Please, don't go there, Ron.
But you asked the question. Wait. You asked the question.
Okay.
Should I stop or should I continue? They are all on the payroll. Those are agents. Benefits and privileges will turn a person around, Bill.
Yeah.
And if they say they're going to give you $10,000 to do this, and you look at the black community and they ain't giving you nothing, you tell me.
Yeah.
That was my point earlier when I was telling you about the prices. You know, everybody has to live. But the problem is, I've been telling Detroit since 1992 when Coleman left. I gave them the complete layout of what's about to happen. And everybody looked at me. I was on TV at the time. Everybody looked at me, and I was so far out there that no one believed me. Today, as I run into my ex-viewers, they say, Ron, you told us this was coming. I said, yeah. And what did you do? Nothing. You did nothing. Now, we could organize, for example, there are tactics that you can do in particular situations. I would have been glad to organize a no voting march. We're not going to vote because it's crooked. Don't you know that the federal government would have came in here to figure out what's wrong? They need our vote when it comes to voting because they tell the world that those indigenous blackies, they live good because they vote and give us approval every time we have an election to do what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you combat that? Stay home. Get out of it. Send your voting registration card back. You never received any freedom with voting. You know, I hear it every day. We got to vote. For what? Why would we want to vote? What advantage is it to vote? All they can say is...
They're going to tell you, Ron, that people died so you could vote.
No. People died so they could save their property. That line that was lined up was not at a voting booth. It was at the Register of Deeds to make sure that the land was safe, that the black folk could have their land. They were shooting blackies that went to the Register of Deeds so they would not be able to make sure that their land was safe. You know, when it comes to voting, Jim Crow stopped voting all through the Jim Crow, Black Crow, all through that era. But blacks still, if you look at that Haiti movie, it tells you we had more blacks in Congress and voted in the White House, Congress, during the 65 to 1900. We had more then than we've had since 1900. All through slavery, quote unquote, that they call it, we had plenty of black people in political positions. And that's when voting meant something, because we was in power. But now, since we're out of power and they've learned to buy off create these agents, why do we want to vote? Because they'll cheat right in front of your face, especially when they got the machine. When I was in drum back in the 60s and early 70s, we proved to the federal court that the electronic machine, not what y'all got today, but that old machine there that you got in there, that curtain would come over when you got ready to vote. You go in, you cock it by moving the handle over, and the curtain would close. And once you pull down the levers that you wanted, you pull it back, and the curtain would open up. Do you remember that? That was before your time. Okay. Well, what happened was, you remember? Okay. We figured out that they were cheating, and we went to court and proved they were cheating. It was at Dodge Lane. They were using those machines at Dodge Lane. And the judge told us, Judge Levin, All of them Levin brothers, that Sandra Levin and that other punk, all of them, their daddy, he was retired. He took the case. He told us that you proved it, but I cannot announce that you won because every vote since 1934 would be challenged. Now, think about that for a minute. Because nobody believes that the count can be challenged. We crawled in on our knees and got behind the machines. Nobody knew we were back there. And they got the little bitty window boxes. And every time they voted for Ron March, it would go to that European that was running against him. And
well, you know, the new machines is computers, and so they already know that.
Yes. They said that they could, this last election, remember when Romney said that he was not going to announce it because they had told Romney during the 3 and 4 o'clock hour that the votes would change and everything that went to the black, it would come to you. It was something like that. I don't remember. Oh,
right. Because he was so sure he won.
Yes. And what happened, Obama and company went over to Dubai and had a big computer set up over there. They switched the vote, overpowered the Republican trick, and flipped it back into the Democratic crap, and he won. And I mean, everybody was mad.
That's why they had that look, him and his wife and all of them had that look on their face like, what happened? We were supposed to win.
Yes. I'm telling you. I am telling you that. And everybody saw it, but then they try to act like, they can't. It's just ignorance that we have in our community. And we need to wake people up to reality. So programs like yours, programs like mine, all I can do is bring the news and then tell them I'm lying to you. I want y'all to hear me. I'm lying. I just made all this up today. But I want you to prove that I'm lying by go looking it up and then come back next week and tell me that I told you a lie. That's how you're going to learn something. You just can't come in here every week and hear something and say you know it because you don't know it. You need to go and research it to make sure you know what you're talking about. Because we're coming to an era where everything is going to be so important along the legal line that it needs life or death if you're going to be saved or not saved.
And you are so right about the new American slave because if for those that's in the Detroit area, they'll know what I'm talking about. But if you ride up on 8 Mile and Woodward, you see nothing but white boys out there with signs saying they're homeless. And they live up under the viaduct right there.
Under the viaduct,
clothes and bags. And so you're not lying. I mean, just look around, you're seeing it.
Yes. And did you know that those that were downtown, when they have events downtown, the corporations like Fox Theater, all them crooks down there, they'll set up buses and pick all the bums up and take them to a shelter when they're having an event so it don't get on the news.
That's right.
Doing that ever since they tore down, what was that street where all the Europeans was on? It was bums down there. I know where the street is. I just can't call the name of the street.
But you're talking about
Cass Avenue, yes. They tore all that down and brought in some of them high-rise, low-income that the homeless people couldn't live in. So everybody was wondering, where the hell did they go? But the bottom line is, if you go downtown, you ain't really got to go in anywhere downtown. You ain't got to worry about the viaduct. You go downtown on 4th Street, Lafayette, all that kind of stuff. You got people laying on the sidewalk with a can. I saw one down there one day. I went to the federal building. I said, Lord have mercy. He was like he was sleeping right there. Had that can out. Cold. It was cold as hell. But we have this problem, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And I want the viewers to know that you got to have a nationality to survive, because all of this does not pertain to you. The European has to make sure that you, with a nationality, lives. and you have to learn how to let you live. But if you're going to stay a Negro, colored, black, Christian, all of that trash, you belong to him. He ain't got to feed you. He can do anything he want to do with you. But if we had a massive move throughout the black community, that we are changing our nation, we're getting out of the system, and we have a nationality known as indigenous, Olmec. This is very important. Listen to these words. Indigenous, Olmec, Ouachita Moor. Indigenous, Olmec, Ouachita Moor. That's your nationality. And you have to put that down every time. And when you do, they're going to realize that they owe you. That's why they changed everything, because they owe. The contract called Constitution says that they owe you for being on your land. Somebody's got to pay for this land. But as long as you consider yourself a Negro, they don't owe you a dime. They don't owe you a penny. That makes a lot of sense, don't it, Beth?
Yes, it do. It makes a lot of sense.
As long as you are here as a Negro, colored, black, Christian, I like to throw that in there. Cretan, don't need to look up Cretan. Cretin, Cretan. Look that madness up. And when you do, you realize that you're nothing but property, real estate for the United States of America. They don't owe you nothing. All they have to do is keep you quiet. Don't riot, and that's what they got the agents for.
Right.
So you don't riot and burn in the streets or come out like you're crazy. They riot. We come out to fight, but they come out to riot, and their riot is to destroy our community.
Yes. Well,
So,
Ron, the number for if they have any questions that anyone wants to ask you, the audience, they can call 347-215-8041. And if they want to ask you a question or make a comment, we have about 15 more minutes. I have a caller at 804-289. 804-289?
Yes. Thank you, Beverly. And peace to you, Ron. Hey, Ron, did you hear anything since I spoke last week about these people marching on Washington?
No, I have not. And I tried to find it.
I did some research.
Share it.
I didn't look into it real good, but I did see some things about it.
Okay. And they're gonna. What are they gonna do?
They look. They, from what I heard two sides, and these two credible sources, right? Said they gonna march on Washington in arms, and ain't nobody going home to do leave. They going old style, like they can bust up in your house and lynch your ass, right? But Dempsey gonna have to kill a lot of them.
Okay.
Martin Dempsey.
Slow down.
He's the greatest thing living right now. He's the best thing for America right now.
All right.
And they trying to kill him.
Right.
And he ain't backing down.
All right. Now hold up. Stop. I want to know who they want to lead. You keep talking, but you ain't giving no specifics.
Yeah. Okay. Look. Yeah. It's supposed to be this colonel heading all this. You know.
Right.
Yeah. This colonel supposed to be heading. Huh?
I'm going to ask you again. What do they want? Who do they want to lead?
They want Obama to lead. Lead.
Okay.
Yeah, and look, you know when they killed that black girl in Washington that day, it was a failed assassination attack on Obama. Can you believe that?
Oh,
yeah.
The girl with the baby in the car.
Oh, yes. She had a baby in the car. Yes.
Now, some of the research, some of the little articles that I read, it was the Tea Party behind some of this too.
Yeah. See, this won't no mishappening. all this was planned. Look, they said they shot that woman after they pulled the damn baby out the car. And they said it was another person in the car before it stopped. And they said it was two people, a passenger, beside that girl. But they said they didn't start shooting that girl till they grabbed that baby out that damn car. And ain't none of these Negroes been saying nothing about it.
Right.
Hey, man, this shit is crazy, man. I mean, it looked normal to a lot of people because ain't nobody said nothing.
Yes.
This is dangerous shit about to happen, man.
Well, we got to prepare ourselves, and people like you that know this type of information, you need to get that information out. And
man, people, man, they into their little zone, right? But when this shit pop on their ass, they say they want to be on your own. Well, goddamn it, you about to be on your own.
All right.
Yes.
All right, I appreciate you, y'all. Yes,
yes.
Please. Yes.
Thank you, caller. Thank you.
Yeah. He's totally correct. I agree with him 100%. But see, it's set up that way. I didn't know all those particulars. They only give out what they want to give out.
Right.
And when you research it, you got to know where to go and how to get there. And then
right.
what he's saying is so far-fetched that you say, wow, nobody said anything about this.
Right.
You know, they took people out, took the baby out, and then shot her.
Right.
Ooh.
They did. And then nobody, like you say, that's what's been going on all the time. Everything's going on, but nobody's saying anything.
Where was our civil rights all-star? Where was that damn Al Sharpton? You know? And he gets on TV. People need to call in on them shows that he's on and embarrass him. Tell him, you know.
But they screen those shows, Ron.
Yeah, I know.
It's not like here. You know, anybody can call and they screaming.
Yes.
Now, when the guy was talking about March the 16th, I didn't do a lot of research. I just read a few articles, but it seems like the Tea Party is kind of behind that too. So that raised like a red flag to me too.
Yes, big time. But then, you know, if you listen, and I'm gonna say it anyway. If you listen to the Tea Party and some of those quote unquote right-wing groups, out of their ignorance, they're trying to get back to some particular issues that's in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Which is where we want to be. But now they don't want, you know, they're slick because they know if they go too far, they're going to go to jail. And, you know, because of the Constitution. So they want to pick out certain things just to embarrass the president. And see, most people will jump on that, especially when the president said a couple of weeks ago that he got a pen in his pocket, and if they don't act right, he's going to sign something of the executive order. Well, every president before him signed executive orders. When they couldn't get what they wanted, they signed executive orders. Mm-hmm. You know, now it's all illegal. Don't think I'm swaying towards Obama. I'm just saying that they'll do anything to discredit so that history will show that whatever condition America's in, that Blackie did it. That's what they're trying to do. Or better yet, that's what they're doing.
Yes.
And, you know, and that's, I don't know how to get out of it.
You're right. I'm going to take this other call, Ron. 860, do you have anything else you wanted to ask, Ron?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
hello?
We can.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I would say, it's interesting that certain Europeans at a time, even with the Great Depression, that they were committing a lot of suicides, which I've heard about it, and that's what the history has said when they couldn't really support themselves. So my question, you go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, real quick.
My question, what about these bankers that died, like works in these banks, like J.P. Morgan, that's European, that's dropping like flies? What's your take on that?
It's strange you bring that up, but that's where my mind went when you started, and that is if you put in, how can you word it? Bankers commit suicide. If you put that in Google, it's been about 5 bankers in the last 6 months that have committed suicide, and all of them are big bankers, way up there. And they jumping out windows. They're running in front of trains, all kind of crazy things. I looked it up. I got an email on it, and I looked it up. So if you look up, bankers commit suicide and let the computer work, it'll bring it up. And you're totally correct. So I can't explain it other than they didn't do what they were supposed to do when they were supposed to do it. That's all I can say. And so it may not be suicide. It could be murder.
It's actually murder. Because if you think about it, they know certain things that at times they won't do or they feel it's going to probably hurt their people or were the scenario. So what happens for them so that the real bankers that really control them, they just kill them off. But you can't have like 6 suicides in less than 2 months. No, that's some scheme going on because it's all related. People don't think that because we know white people commit suicide, so a lot of us going to think they're going crazy. No, they're just going to kill them to this purpose when they kill them. So they're saying either they're going to go broke or they're not doing what they're told. It's one way or the other. And if you're a big banker, that means there's no way you're going to lose money.
You're totally correct, brother. I like what you're saying. You're right. You're right.
So,
I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And don't forget now, they are arresting Vatican priests over there in the Vatican about monies that's missing and scams that are being had. I read that. That was on international news that they busted one about a month ago for doing something with the finances, and they couldn't find the money. So there's a lot of stuff in that area going on, and there's a lot of money that's being stolen from especially from America, because we are funding the world, believe it or not. I was trying to tell them in Detroit that Detroit was funding the state. Coleman made that clear. And then they turn around and say, well, the hell with that. We're going to take Detroit and fund ourselves. Just like that Hay Time. Bev, you got to get the DVD. HAYTI. It explains all of that. How they do it, how they did it, and what we're under. Okay?
All right. Thank you, caller.
All right. That'll be it for me. So, I lay down enough for that people to really think about. Okay.
All right.
Appreciate
right. We have another call at 516-203. 516.
Hi. I just wanted to ask him if you could touch on the whole Ukraine topic.
Oh. I'm not. I've been so busy worrying about you and me. I haven't looked into that Ukraine. But I'll tell you this: the government is not making enough money, so the corporations need a war. Now, if it's in Ukraine, they don't care where it is, but they need a war because the World Bank will finance one side, and the other bank, IMF, will finance the one side. And everybody makes money when that happens. So I can't give you any specifics, but I don't know what's going on in Ukraine. But it's ironic that now the people want to be free and the United States want to get involved. I'm telling you that the earth has wanted to be free for years. Why are they taking up that fight today? And there are hundreds of places on earth today where people are fighting to get out from under certain regimes and certain types of tyranny, and the United States just handpicks where they want to go.
Well, some people say that the United States is causing it, that it's a coup going on.
Yes, that could be. Because, what was the name? Chernobyl up there in that area has a 100-year curfew on the land because that big old nuclear factory blew up. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in Chernobyl. I can't pronounce it. So the government, the people are going to die. They're getting cancer, and they're getting different types of diseases. So, where this Ukrainian is, they're having major problems there also. And the government is not playing the game because it got so bad, I think the government left his office and went underground. What is that about? You know, so let me just stop and say, I don't know that much about it, but I know United States is dogs. And if they're involved, there's some treachery involved. I can tell you that right now. Okay, that's about all I can say, brother. All right.
Okay, Ron. Well, we're down to our last few seconds, and so we shall do this again next Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what's your website, and what day is your classes?
All right. My classes are on Tuesday, and we're streaming my classes live Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And my website is Ron March at ronmarchshow.com. If you need information on the situation, pop me an email, and I'll send you. I got so much stuff. I'll just send you stuff, so don't worry about it. And I'm sending stuff out now every day. Bev, you've been getting a lot of stuff.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
As I crack some of this mess, I just send it out. Boom. So everybody listening should at least try to get me their email address so I can send it to them. They can make a decision if they want to move on it or not. But next week, Ben, I got the topic already. We need to talk about except for value, and there's no money, and how to get out of debt. And I got plenty of info on that, and that's going to be very interesting. So let's call it discharging debt next week.
Discharging debt.
Yes. And they better get in tune, because what's coming, they better learn how to get out of it.
Okay.
Okay? All right, Ben.
All right. So as always, thank you, Ron. We appreciate you.
All right, sister. I appreciate you.